She smiled at the men in uniform she passed as she walked towards the station, the blue-grey of the Royal Air Force mingling with the khaki green of the Army. There were some sailors around, too, looking for some rest and relaxation before returning to battle. The London streets, which had become so familiar to her in the last few years, were unrecognisable. Piles of rubble, all that remained of familiar landmarks. The underground had become an almost permanent home for those residents who used it as a shelter. As Penny walked past St. Paul's, she stopped to marvel at the old building, still standing amidst the ruins of the city. People came here as if to prove to themselves that Hitler wouldn't break them. The tombs and banners from previous wars and battlefields seemed to give people confidence. She heard a voice say, "We ain't ever lost, and we won't start now." Penny looked at the leathered face of the old Cockney man who had spoken to her. "What do you think it will take to convince the Germans of that?" she asked. "I don't know, girl. That Hitler is pure evil. But he won't win. He can't win." The old man shuffled off, and she headed down into the station to take the tube home. It didn't take too long to reach Hyde Park and daylight. The underground was much faster than taking the bus, but she didn't enjoy dwelling on just how far below ground the trains moved. She walked past Hyde Park, marvelling at the field of daffodils in front of her. Nature just carried on, although the world seemed to have turned upside down. The fountains may not be working, and the statues protected by mounds of sandbags, but the flowers kept growing. She stared up at the sky. It would be a clear night tonight, another perfect night for bombing. She wondered if Churchill had already left London. The papers said the Prime Minister wanted to stay, but his advisers felt that Chequers, his home, and 10 Downing Street would prove too tempting a target for the German raiders. Penny quickened her pace, hoping to get a few hours' sleep before evening. She had promised her uncle that she would go with him to Queen's Hall to see Sir Malcolm Sargent conduct Dream of Gerontius. She wished they were going to Haymarket Theatre to see No Time for Comedy with Rex Harrison, an actor she loved. But that treat would have to keep for another day. Bombs had hit several streets in Belgravia, and many of the owners had closed up their houses and moved into hotels. Penny knew it was only a matter of time before her uncle took a similar step. Cook and Perkins were too old to be living in continual danger. There was so much work to do, and not enough staff available. The younger members had left, either to join the services or to work in factories that offered higher pay. Thankfully, her aunt wasn't around when she got home. The house was quiet. She slipped into the kitchen to speak to Cook, but found her asleep at the table, overtaken by exhaustion. Penny slipped a cardigan around the old woman's shoulders, being careful not to wake her. She went up to her bedroom, falling asleep almost as soon as her head hit the pillow. The musicians were experts, but the theme of life and death was a little too much for Penny, given the events of the previous months. "Let me treat you to dinner at the Savoy, Penny," Uncle John said, as they left the theatre arm in arm. "That will make up for depressing you." "The music was excellent. Uncle John, it's just, we're surrounded every day by people dying. It's hard to appreciate what Newman was trying to say." "Some would say it's always difficult to figure out religious pieces, Penny. Thank you for accompanying me. I needed something to take my mind off things." Penny glanced at him, wondering if she should say anything. "You're worried about Hugo, aren't you?" Her uncle's face paled, but otherwise he pretended he hadn't heard her. "Uncle John, you can't just ignore his existence." "He chose his side in this war. Please don't mention it again." Penny sighed. She liked her cousin Hugo, even if she didn't understand his interest in Germany. She couldn't believe he was a Nazi, despite the evidence against him. He'd taken trips to Berlin to see his friends from college. One friend, Hans, had joined the Luftwaffe, but Hugo hadn't.